Greetings, Perceptive Readers. This is James. I want to share an article with you that is now on the PocBooks.com website, and it's called Stan Lee, Knowing Mind and Heart. If I ask you, have you ever heard of Stan Lee, what are the first thoughts that come to mind? Well, we get into this. To start off, let me say, may Stan Lee never be forgotten. Did you know in an interview when asked what he believed about death, Stan remarked he just couldn't believe life would stay lifeless or dead. Well, until Stan returns, a resurrection if you will, I want to give you something to consider so there will be something to talk about when you meet him. What do I mean? Well, most likely every person reading this on the Product of Culture website will know of Stan Lee's occupation as a writer, creator, and editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. Many superheroes, most notably Spider-Man, were brainstormed and created by him. It is very interesting listening to the anecdotal story of how Spider-Man actually was created. And one of the lessons happens to be that when he went to the editor at that time with this idea, the editor thought it was a bad idea. He actually had reasons dealing with the general public view of matters of even teenagers why it wouldn't work. However, you see what the end result was, that it did work in just one of these last issues of Astonishing Tales or something that Marvel used to come out with. It was one of those comic books that, was kind of out there, so to speak. But all the same, that's when he put his idea or thought about Spider-Man in there. And it turned out to be a hit. And it's something how the response from the editor at that time, who was over everything, and said, see, that idea that we loved. See, so he went from saying it would be a bad idea to that idea that you and I both love. See, he changed his mind and thought on that because it was based on the reception of the general public. And the lesson in that anecdotal story happens to be, as Stan Lee would say, if you do have something that you really want to do, a great idea that you know in your heart and your mind, and you see I'm elaborating now, and he end up saying, don't let some idiot, stop you from pursuing it. And so I'm going to share an extra thought along with that because of the simple fact Stan Lee came out with many ideals and superheroes, you see, that people really identify with throughout the decades. Now, returning back to what I wrote about, he achieved many awards over his 95 years of life career. To name a few, the Will Eisner Award Hall of Fame, the Jack Kirby Hall of Fame, the National Medal of Arts, and Disney Legends. And see, with the National Medal of Arts, I think about art and creativity and writing, poetry in general. And when you keep it in its place on a personal level, and what do I mean by that? When you are really writing or creating something from your heart and not necessarily because someone is prodding you to do it this way or that way. Like, for example, let's say if you love the color blue, okay, or purple or gold or something of that nature. And when you're working with that one color, you feel strongly that, this is the right touch. This is the right way to put the trim and everything. And in your heart and mind, you feel it's perfect. or very good. And yet, if you receive the prodding from somewhere else on the outside to change something that your heart and spirit have moved you to do, you see what can happen. You see, it won't have the same feel to it. So that's what I mean when I talk about art and writing and creativity. It can really be a form of healing for you. And so, with that being said, let's continue. Stan Lee in a conversation to remember. Perceptive readers, because you have acquired thinking ability over the years, I feel confident this roundtable discussion Stan engaged in during the period of 1968 will prove valuable to you. Who is all involved with the discussion? The episode of the Stan Lee Show participants happens to be Stan Lee, of course, editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, Jeff Shiro, editor of Subterranean newspaper, Chuck Scaro, senior at Columbian College, also an editor, Skip Rice, Wes, the Dalton School editor. You will hear Stan Lee state the above-mentioned panel of professionals' credentials in full at the beginning of the episode. Yes, this was from the Stan Lee Show. So the topics discussed were applicable then, and you will appreciate the valid assertion Stan and the panel makes on the following topics of what? The establishment, nonconformity, the underground culture, relations, and sexual views of that time. Yes, it was talked about by Stan Lee, Mr. Jovial, happy Stan Lee. But you can see all the aspects of this man, heart and mind in this interview. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share this article and these videos that you can look up, because I put the links in there. They're not hyperlinked, but you can easily copy and paste them on the YouTube and watch parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. You see, Stan Lee has a special place in many persons' hearts right to this day. If you say he was a genuine and kind man to anyone who knew him, even though reading his stories, even through reading his stories, you could see he was a genuine and kind man. I think you will find that if you said it to someone who has met him, they would all agree with you. And so those video links are there for you. And they're from the social issues, or they talked about the 1960s. So in closing, I just want to say this, Perceptive readers. This is a good time to reflect on what you know and think about the social issues of the day. In the future, wouldn't it be nice to talk with such a man like Stan? Hey, if anyone will find out there is a returning back to life, you see, you know he is going to find it. So yes, Stan Lee, you and your wife, Joan Bocock Lee, rest in peace for now. Perceptive readers, enjoy the discussion and have a great day. You have just listened to the Perceptive Readers podcast. Remember, until next time, if you read something that encourages you to improve or enhance your life for the better, it becomes your reality.